Welcome to Front Row Geeks.
Welcome everybody.
Live.
Oh, episode 154 of your favorite, the one and only Front Row Geeks podcast. And by one and only, I mean the one that's actually called Front Row Geeks. Obviously, we have Front Row Perspective, which is also part of what we do. But we're all a big happy family, and that's what I need to explain. Hi, everybody. I am Baron5X, Eddie Espinoza, joined by the illustrious Asher, David.
Yo. and MPX. Who is MPX?
Yeah, that MPX. That one. The one and only MPX. How you everybody doing? We are a week away from Cyberpunk. We're not going to talk about anything about it. Yes, I am. I'm just kidding. That's going to be. Let's start that way. The anticipation for 2077's best game that's coming out in 2020. Cyberpunk 2077.
People already apparently have. I'm not sure how, but some people already have access to the game early, like almost a complete week early.
I think a lot of that is that some stores broke sales date, broke the street date, and I think that's more than likely like a mistake. Like, you know how often this thing has changed over time. I'm sure some logistics person pressed the wrong button and released at least the collector's edition for the PS4 game, maybe some other types of copies too.
That's the only one I've been seeing around so far is the collector's for PS4.
So it seems like a button push more than anything.
Yeah. And certain things about it have been released. I've avoided most of them, but the one thing that I could not avoid was basically somebody posting literally, day one patch, and how big it is.
Oh, sorry.
You okay? Did you eat a bug?
No, the soda I had from Sonic was not what I thought it was going to be.
What, instead of drinking Sprite, you got Ocean Breeze?
I mean, kind of like that, except it was. I thought it was Coke, and it turned out to be Dr. Pepper. I don't know. It has too much of a cherry thing in it. Maybe something else. So, I'm sorry, David. Keep going.
So, as a heads up for everybody out there, and in anticipation of like, yay, Cyberpunk day one patch is about 56 gigabytes. Everybody.
Oh, so people weren't joking about that?
Well, no, this guy literally posted a picture of his own PS4 of it, and yeah, it's 54 gigabytes.
Now I heard a little bit different. I heard that figure is technically just if you decide to install the game in your hard drive size, not necessarily the day zero day one patch. Although yes, the day zero day one patch is going to be sizable. I've heard maybe the 30s, but we won't actually know until the day of.
There is also the possibility it may depend upon the console in question, because it might be that if you're going at the previous generation, it won't be so big because they're not going to be loading extra textures, extra information and things like that may not fit on the disc.
Excellent point.
But who can tell?
Let's see. Current and the factor is that right now the base system requirements. It requires 70 gigabytes of storage space with an additional note, SSD recommended.
Cool. Okay.
Which I feel like that additional note should be under recommended, but it's one of those it by itself is a fairly big game.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess that's to be expected. I mean, how ambitious this game is, where it's coming up in the lineup of generations. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's one of those situations where it's like, yeah, that is going to be a kind of a big deal. Is the factor that I think Steam is also going to start preloading on December 9th and then unlocks on the 10th.
Well, I the way I read it is that I think Arizona time, I should probably say, but I think Eastern time was 7 p.m. Eastern time because I think in the past I almost called them Cyberpunk. I don't know why. CD Projekt Red has gone off of UTC time with their releases. So if it's December 10th UTC time, that usually means that we're going to get it. You and I are going to get it on the 9th, which will probably be around 4 or 5 p.m. our time, Arizona time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, besides there being a preload, maybe they allow preload earlier in the day. If not before then you and I should be able to start downloading around that period of time.
Admittedly, like I'm not sure if I will be able to run it with my current rig, which that's the one reason why it's like, do I want to save this for the new rig or just play it in potato mode and then try it again in like once I've gotten the new computer.
That's kind of a
built
good
up.
question. You think you're right to think about that, because even though this is going to be the hottest game of the year, these kind of games always like just I don't know what it is about the marketing, but like in a month it'll be like 25% off somewhere for some reason. And if you think
I think that's usually because whether they meet actual, pricing, like the amount of quota they need to sell. Like, you know how they've often talked about some things are undersold and things like that. The way I see it is that they're projecting how many units need to sell at full price and such before they start looking at consumers who don't purchase games at full price to start getting those people. And I think that depends upon certain types of games, like the quality of the game. Because sometimes it's a very good game that can go down very cheap very quickly because they're selling so many units so fast that they can afford to actually start breaking the price down earlier than usual, so they can start targeting those people who may not be purchasing it immediately because it's still $60. But then again, there's the other trend is usually when it is selling so poorly that they again need to do that to start widening the amount of consumers who are willing to purchase the game not at full price, simply because they are trying to get any amount of sales for their product, the game in question.
Yeah.
So maybe it's, I mean, if you're not going to have your main system ready, maybe it is kind of worth waiting. I mean, other than the fact that you're going to lose out on the zeitgeist, but I know this, unless this game bombs, the hotness of this game is probably going to last for a while.
I don't think it's gonna bomb per se, but I'm gonna guess that some people who went in to Cyberpunk 2077 because they heard like, oh, it's made by CD Projekt Red, and like everything about it, it's like I think some people are gonna just go like get the game just because of the name, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be so good because like this is what people have been telling them without doing any research about the game itself, and then when they start up the game and it's like, time to customize your genitalia.
Yeah.
And it's poor Jimmy, 14-year-old, and his mom just walks in the room and he's sitting there and she's like,
I don't know if that's a thing anymore. Is it?
Oh, the customized genitalia? That is a
No,
thing?
no. The thing of like, little Timmy requests, DOA extreme volleyball from his grandmother. And it's like, oh, of course, volleyball sounds great.
I can tell you, I think David is dead on, because I still listen to morning radio, and the morning radio hosts have brought up Cyberpunk once in a while because their kids bring it up, and they're talking about, the Xbox and PlayStation right now is so big that it even bleeds into non-gamer conversations. And I know they've brought up Cyberpunk being an anticipated game, and I know those radio hosts have no idea what that fucking game is about. And I know that their kids are getting their hands on it.
Yeah, but how old are their kids? Like,
I think one of them is still in middle school. Like, they're all like middle school, high school aged, from what I remember.
Okay, so technically they shouldn't be playing the game.
Probably. So
then again, how many middle schoolers, high schoolers have played GTA?
Yeah, exactly.
GTA, Halo, Online.
Well, I'm thinking, the last GTA, which was clearly, a mature game.
100%. Yeah, but no, it's like I feel like there are probably going to be a bunch of people that get the game because of all the hype to it, and then they're going to find out that
it's not their kind of game
at all, because like just skipping past like the character creator, it is a very dark world in the world of Cyberpunk 2077.
That sounds strange, because I'm pretty sure I can't remember his first name, but Pondsmith, the writer of the original Cyberpunk 2020 rulebook, tried to make it somewhat lighthearted.
Yeah.
It's sarcastic, it's ironic, it's dark and edgy, but it's dark and edgy in a way that's supposed to be sort of a big cosmic joke.
Yeah. But it's one of those things of like, given the, I want to say, mental climate like I can go in there and look at it and go like, okay, this like they may be treating stuff as like a little bit serious and then some tongue in cheek for a lot of it, and it's like, okay, that's true to the original Cyberpunk 2020. And then there's somebody that may go in there and go like, oh god, this is too dark, too gritty for anybody.
You mean they are not going to be able to take a joke?
Yeah, that level.
So I think to level set this in a way that I can relate to, this setup feels like it could be something akin to Tales of Vesperia. Actually, I remember specifically Tales of Vesperia. One of the things that caught me directly was just like how much they flirted with darkness in the beginning of that game. Like you one of your antagonists isn't even a boss fight, and you kill him off screen like while he's whimpering, which is in a Tales game I had not seen up to that point. And it was, I think, in a way you can say, it was kind of like, ooh, what are they doing here? But eventually that game ends.
Which one you're talking, like which person you're talking about.
Oh, he's one of those knights, like one of those sniveling knights. It's like, oh, poor people suck. I think his name was Kumo or something like that. Kumo. And basically, Yuri like drops him into a sand pit and says, bye bye, and that's how you kill him, like execution style, like video games like that. You're used to having
the only reason
battle.
why you have to assume that he's dead is because he doesn't show up again.
Yeah.
Unlike every other sort of bumbling side note henchman.
Well, he also like dies like begging for his life, like please save me, and he's like no, that kind of stuff. So like anyway. I think there is definitely a sense of like, yeah, I think this game could flirt with darkness, but I don't think it's going to be like it's not going to be that kind of sci-fi where you leave the game going like, oh, okay.
Well, it depends. This is a CD Projekt. Of course, they chose The Witcher, which has dealt with, some interesting themes going on. But then again, that was utilizing a lot. It was very similar to, you could say, Game of Thrones, of where they were using the books and text to construct the show. And then same with the Witcher games, even though the Witcher games technically have their own plot line, and they're supposed to be following the entirety of the book series. They still rely heavily on it, and they oftentimes make pretty direct references to certain things.
Exactly.
To like specific stories and such.
And I think the point that I also want to make with what I was saying was that I think if we see a lot of the edgier stuff, the grittier stuff, I think we're gonna see that either mostly in side quests, like explore that for a little while, and then you go back to whatever your main game is, or go do something fun, or we're gonna see a lot of that in the beginning before we lighten up towards the end.
I think it's entirely dependent on exactly how they're going to write the main story, I think, in all honesty. I think it's going to be that there'll be a lot of side character content and such, because didn't we have this problem with
Witcher 3?
One of the brawlers a couple months ago having a strange name that people didn't realize was meant to be a joke?
I actually don't remember. Which one is that one?
I forget exactly what it was. It was like one of the characters had some weird play on words for their naming convention that people went, oh my god, how stupid can you be? Why didn't you look it up online? And then it's like, no, it's supposed to be that because it's supposed to be a joke.
Yeah.
I remember that one. If you look it up, let us know. But yeah, I don't remember.
But the reason why I wanted to bring up, utilizing a previously constructed work for the basis of their games. Admittedly, I haven't played The Witcher 3, so I don't know how well they were able to write the story into that, because that I've heard has been their tour de force. So this is where they really have to stand on their own two legs, because this is no longer has the advantage of a pre-constructed world as you would have in the Witcher books. While they're
I think that doesn't say enough for. I mean, I didn't know much about Cyberpunk lore going into this, but there's a lot to work with. I mean, I've seen some of those videos, and there's like...
Yeah, but there is a difference between lore and narrative.
And
I think that is really going to be dependent upon how well this game is received, is how well the main story is actually told. That's why I think that main story is going to be very serious. It'll probably have its lighter moments and darker moments. It's a good drama should have.
Yeah.
But I think that ultimately it's going to rely on whether people can state that storytelling is that they weren't truly relying entirely on the stories written by the original author of the Witcher books, which I can't remember the name. Strakowski.
Yeah, I don't remember his name either. No, I don't know.
No.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's it.
But the thing is like being able to truly stand on their own two feet and not have to truly rely on a pre-established narrative and characters. But then again, a lot of things could screw over them, such as gameplay, technical issues, the entire question of DLC that has been on everybody's mind, because while they haven't announced anything yet, they said that they were waiting until they released the game before saying anything about DLC.
Yeah, they did say that there will be, like Witcher 3, that there will be free DLC for everybody, but they have not stated anything about the about DLC at all. That's not like the only thing we have is that there will be DLC, and there will be free DLC, like how The Witcher 3 got it. So
it'll probably be later in 2021.
Well, before we start actually seeing anything concrete.
But yeah, my thoughts from this thing is like, I'm trying to go in with the thought of like, okay, it's probably going to be a very decent game, because it's CD Projekt Red, but past that, I don't have a lot of expectations, because like I'm one that's like, I can get a little bit of hype, but I don't get super hyped for a game. Or when I do, it's like I get super hyped for like 5 minutes, and then like 20 minutes later, it's like, okay, now that I think about it, maybe I should tone down a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as excited for a game as I think I can be. I don't know. I mean, I think Fallout games kind of get me more hyped up for obvious reasons, but I know this could change for me. Maybe after this, I'll be excited for every CD Projekt Red game at max hype. But I have to say, I'm really looking forward to this week.
Well, my thoughts, and this is what I'm kind of hoping that comes from this, is that if this does well, maybe we will get more games with the story genre, or at least the setting of Cyberpunk of them.
Yeah, it would be nice. Cyberpunk is a good well to tap from.
It is an exhaustive well to tap from, and as such, like, I really do hope that like games do kind of start trying to do more Cyberpunk-esque worlds.
Well, more sci-fi-esque fantasy.
Yeah, than fantasy or like space stuff. I'm hoping more.
You
for
mean
Cyberpunk.
Not spaceship stuff, but actual foot on the ground styles?
Yeah, like that's why I said Cyberpunk versus, let's say, space sci-fi. Like, I'd rather see more like things in the same vein as like Ghost in the Shell type of games versus games in the same vein as, well, Mass Effect. Because yes, I do like sci-fi, but I feel like
I'm
right
sorry,
now
that sounded like you were comparing apples to apple.
I
thought you were criticizing, like, the difference between Mass Effect versus, say, Privateer, or I can't remember what it's called.
Considering that I would actually put Privateer and Mass Effect in the same category, because the way I think of Cyberpunk is, Cyberpunk, you don't have space travel. It's usually something that's like kind of into the future and is a possibility, whereas like space sci-fi, it's like you have Star Trek, Star Wars, Privateer, Mass Effect, whereas like Cyberpunk is more of technically there's one thing that could come from having Cyberpunk come out. We could have a proper Shadowrun game again. Like, well, technically we did have a new Shadowrun a few years ago.
Well, yeah, but are you talking like something that more in the vein of Cyberpunk 2077, or say the Elder Scrolls, where it's a much more first-person perspective versus tactical RPG?
Yeah, like I'm kind of hoping for more like how Cyberpunk is first person. Although I think
this one is, yes.
person.
No, in Cyberpunk 2077 there isn't going to be a third person mode. That being said, really? they have talked up the photo mode, which I guess is their answer to, well, you'll still be able to see your character this way.
Okay, and in cutscenes, but no, it's just there. I have hopes that the genre of Cyberpunk versus the genre of the space age type sci-fi setting starts to have a bit more oomph to it. But and your thoughts on this, MPX?
I'm ambivalent.
We'll certainly have to. We'll have to. Obviously, I think next week we'll have a little more insight. Since, well, I'll at least have the game, so I'll let you all know how it goes, and then maybe by then we'll start hearing more of people's reactions to it, and we can go from there.
Yeah. So next thing on the docket.
So let's move to some movie-ish stuff. So let me start by saying that I had intended to talk about New Mutants today, the new movie New Mutants. I was going to watch it yesterday. I did not have time. So that's going to be my homework for this week, is to watch New Mutants and bring it up on the podcast next week. That all being said, I've already heard a lot of disappointing stuff about it, which I guess is not a surprise considering everything that's happened to that movie in production. But I'm going to watch it and I'm going to review it, and that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Now, the other thing we can really chew on is this Monster Hunter World thing that I just found out about today. And we discussed it a little bit off mic, but let me go ahead and recap again what it is, and we can kind of go from there. Apparently, the movie released in China. It released in China, or they're showing previews of it. I actually didn't know which one.
No, it's somebody released a clip, and
it's just a clip?
been basically somebody went to an early preview of the movie and did the whole like phone camera thing of the screen that I've seen.
Oh, okay, that explains that.
And actually, I think I could probably find it to share if I do a search. So
anyway, to set up a little bit while he's doing that, I guess what was shown off by this person who saw the movie was a joke that is rubbing people the wrong way. And I think once we hear the joke, we can start talking about what that is, in what way, and who it is that's being rubbed the wrong way.
There it is. This is essentially a clip from the movie. And this is what's causing people to rub things to be rubbed the wrong way. And it's like,
well, let's hear it first.
Yeah. Well, I've posted it. It's there.
Oh, I thought you were gonna play it. I was anticipating you like playing it on the mic or something.
I can't do that the way that you can, Eddie.
Oh, well, maybe I can. Now that I've set that up, now I'm gonna have to figure it out. You just hit it in our messages, right? So
I put it in the
It's only 10 seconds long.
It's only 10 seconds long.
I'm so sorry. I thought we were on the same page with that.
No, I can't do that, Eddie, with my current setup.
And truthfully, I was doubting that too. It's like, oh, he's actually going to do it. He can do that. Whoa. Let me. No, come back. Okay.
Oh, Eddie's going to do it.
Okay, was that audible?
Yeah, we heard part of it.
It's due to the original compression or poor audio quality of the phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Chinese is the joke.
The joke is that he has tea on his lap, and he asks, "What kind of knees are these?" Chinese.
And people are getting their knickers in a twist because of a pun.
So how I was reading it when I first locked onto this story was that it was mainland China that was being upset by this, because they're already threatened to pull it from theaters. They're not going to show it until it's fixed. And as a result, it's also being, because of Capcom's involvement with the film, it's being review bombed. Monster World,
game.
The game itself is being review bombed on Steam.
Yeah, basically, China is getting extremely pissy because of the factor that it's literally just a word pun. But the factor is that since that is also a major influencer as well as income for international sales.
Very big deal for the movie producer.
It's very big for the movie production company.
So here's some other points I think are worth highlighting in this. Because personally, it was the first thing I thought of. But apparently, I say apparently, but God, I feel like it was the most obvious thing. This movie was reviewed by Chinese officials. Like, the version that people are complaining about right now was reviewed and given the green light by Chinese officials, just for this kind of shit not to happen. So at that point, you're either thinking, and I've heard that the subtitles were maybe different, but I think most people who are going to bother reviewing this movie also know English and also know about puns. What I'm trying to say is that I can't imagine that this went under the radar, that this was acceptable by those officials. The other thing about this is that I think the reason that we're seeing the strong backlash immediately is that I think it was, one, assumed that it was put under the radar, and that two, this is Americans being a little bit racist with a racist pun, which I have to agree to a certain extent. But then I go back to,
how is it racist?
Because it's a stupid pun, and there's a history that pun being used that way. Like, it is a racist pun. Whether or not it's a big deal, I think would have been up to the Chinese people, and they're the ones who are complaining about it. So, like, that's where it comes down to. This movie was given the green light by the people who would be offended by it. So, like, what's going on? I don't know how to read it beyond that, because the people who would be offended are the ones who are offended, but also are the ones that accepted it, gave it the green light. So I don't know.
Well, considering that, like, I decided to go check the customer review, and it's like, okay, let's see the stats, and it says like from December 1st, there's been 1,991 negative reviews, but they've stated that off-topic review activity detected on December 4th removed reviews, and they've basically anything from December 4th onward is currently not being technically actively recorded by Steam.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the review bomb got cut up very quickly. There's still a couple in there because, like, some people that made the review, like, that said it's a bad, like, it's a like, I see one literally, I just still in the Steam thing, and it's definitely a Chinese player, who's done like 297, like 98 hours, and the review is just one sentence. It's like a game full of racial discrimination, space exclamation, and yeah, no. So it's one of those things of like Steam did catch up on the review bomb fairly quick, but as MPX said, most movies literally have to go through through a review board in China before they'll like put it out there for them.
First of all, I would think they would have dubbed it, so why would they have known about the line in the first place? Unless, it's the fact that this is from a American release and it's being brought over to the Chinese people who did not realize that joke was in there in the original one, because sometimes those changes do occur when they tailor make these films for China, essentially.
In the fact that the Chinese version may not actually have
Well, let's face it, that pun would not work in Chinese.
Yeah. From what I read, the same pun obviously is not used because it doesn't translate. They make some other funny thing about it, but again, I think that's something that also doesn't translate going the other way either. So I just know it's different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's one of those situations where it's like they try and, but the problem is that somebody probably posted this clip and it is basically starting to just spiral out of control. Is that it's a simple pun based off of like just a situation that happens probably fairly early on in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
yeah, that looks early in the movie. I mean, given what we know about the movie, that's like very early.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's one of those like it's a comment that's basically starting to trigger stuff. So
it's a throwaway joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's not that big. I don't really get why people are just simply complaining about it. The only reason why they're complaining about it is because the punchline happens to share the same name with an entire country.
Yeah, or an entire race of people from that country. But no, it's one of those things where it's like people
I think
are
it is
going
kind of
to...
a stupid joke. I mean, I don't know if it's a big deal, but I'm also not Chinese, so it wouldn't be a big deal to me.
Well, okay, let's just think of the equivalent for an Hispanic, such as yourself. Let's use Mexican. Would you be offended? Would you be offended if somebody tried to make a joke using that term?
I was thinking about one. I was thinking about the one from Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which is, are you a Mexican or a Mexicant?
That's the one I was thinking of.
Of course, the thing about that movie is that there's a lot of Hispanic people that made the movie, so like, they get a pass because the people making the joke are the people who like. It's self-deprecating.
Was the writer Mexican?
I think he was, or the director, or both. I can't remember those.
Well, the director doesn't count.
Well, then I have to check if the writer is. Let's go to IMDb. Now I'm finally going to go to IMDb.
Also, in a side note, with the whole, just to mention this, is that with the factor that we have the Monster Hunter movie coming out, Monster Hunter World, this is probably the final content update for the game, because like they've finally decided to add in some stuff that basically adds in special stuff that allows you to quotations dress up like the main character from the Monster Hunter movie, which apparently her name is Artemis. Weird.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because that's sort of why they're getting the review bomb in the first place. Because I think as soon as this became a thing, Capcom was trying to distance himself from it. But then this whole thing about you get to play as a character in the game at some point, or
you can't. You can get armor to look like. Yeah.
Well, I think Mila Jovovich is going to be in the game to some degree, like characterizing the game, like because she's lending her voice talent to something. Long story short is that that because there is a movie tie-in, they feel like Capcom is much more directly involved than they are admitting, and hence the backlash.
Well,
and a Mexican did write Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Robert Rodriguez.
Okay, that was the writer.
Yes.
Okay,
but yeah, it's at this point, like I think until we actually get to see the movie, this is just people reacting to a line, because like there may be more part of this joke where they start just being very, very vulgar, where it's not just like, oh, Chinese, and then they start making jokes about Americans and stuff like that. That could potentially be another part of it, but because they've clipped the line, it's forcing a narrative that may not be what that scene is about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in that scene, it appeared. I'm assuming the character who said the line is themselves Chinese or of Chinese descent. So, like on that.
Well, you would need to check the IMDb and try to hopefully find somebody that looks Chinese in that thing. But even then, you do have to realize that that doesn't technically protect him because of how race and nationality play out for most Asiatic countries. They would think of him as American, even if he was, descended from Chinese stock.
Very, very
they
true.
would call him an American. So
excellent point. Wow, I'm trying to see if IMDb will help me here, and I can't. It's all about the video game, so I can't find it.
But anyway,
so I mean, there's
thoughts?
that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think there's anything really much for us to say about it. I think obviously Capcom's going to have to figure things out for themselves with the game-wise. The movie producers, I think, are not going to keep that joke in the movie at this point, just because. I
think it's rather annoying because it's such a small joke ultimately.
Yeah, and I can't disagree. I mean, on the surface, that's how I would have reacted to it. But again, and I think there's definitely a sense that maybe, I mean, I tend to be very PC when it comes to certain things. But I think there's definitely not an idea that, all the people complaining are just, people who tend to complain about that kind of stuff in general. But it doesn't
if
seem like that's
Twitter,
the case.
Then yes.
Yeah, it seems like it's Chinese citizens who are having a problem with the movie. And if there's anyone who would have a legitimate problem with that line, it would be them.
Well, I would think it'd be more of a matter of whether or not it happens to have other racial connotations going into this, considering that Capcom is a Japanese company and the Chinese-Japanese relationship has always been very tense, especially after the Second World War, where the Japanese did invade China.
Excellent point.
That I don't think has been healed at any point in the past, subsequent decades, essentially.
Yeah.
So there's that. There could be also the matter of how, because I find it very strange that if Chinese people, like actual Chinese people, have found out about this because, their version of the movie didn't have that line or it had a different take on it. Like, it's another dumb joke told between people, but it's not like that one. So, or they're ultimately not quite getting the joke. Like, it's not really making fun of Chinese people. It's just the punchline is Chinese.
And so
because
they're thinking
Chai and Knees.
Yeah.
Well, and I think I only mentioned it very briefly, but at least the article that I read about it did seem to mention that particular joke is not new and has been used offensively historically. Hence
where?
Like I don't know. That's just all I got from the article. But that's the context
because
I was given for it being offensive.
I don't quite understand how you could possibly use it offensively and historically. Like, I can understand if it was. Well, yeah, but I could understand it if it was making, the same stupid joke about eating dogs. But that's, well documented.
Yeah,
that's well understood. But I've never heard of the, Chinese joke before. And it seems so, I don't know. It's just the fact that I pulled
up a Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
No, it's the fact that puns at their core are some of the most inoffensive, forms of humor you could possibly have because it's entirely based off of wordplay. It's not trying to belittle people on actually comparisons or things like that. It's, just simply playing around with the words. Not, the idea of saying this particular person is a stereotype or, oh, that's a stereotypical thing for you to say or things like that. Or stating, haha, he fell down. What an idiot. it's
Here, I pulled up a different article that touches on this again, and this is how it's written in the article.
Okay.
The joke is part of a friendly banter between two soldiers in the film. However, Chinese audiences have reportedly inferred that the joke refers to a rhyme that says Chinese and Japanese people have dirty knees. The Chinese subtitles allegedly changed the joke to saying about gold under the knees. However, audiences still understood the English joke.
Wow, I never. Okay, I didn't know the fact that like supposedly a stereotype was for Japanese or Japanese dirty knees.
I mean, it makes sense.
I think I've heard of that before, actually, but it's been so long.
I don't like. It's also worth mentioning that I don't think the producers or anyone meant any harm by it. But it goes back to the one, like, yeah, maybe you should have avoided it at all. Like, maybe it was a bit of an unnecessary joke. And two, again, it got past the Chinese officials. So, like, yeah, I would either they really did overlook it or they thought it was okay too until the general populace got their hands on it. So there might still be more to learn from this.
General populace or people who also are on Twitter just complain because they can complain.
I mean, you're always going to have that.
If you're on that, you can easily project the idea that it's so many people when, if the entirety of China was really upset about this, they would be, able to truly make a raid or something. Instead,
I mean, again, these movies are being threatened to be pulled from theaters already. Like that's something that's already in process. So unless they fix them, I imagine it'll get fixed and put right back. But.
So, well, I think we've kind of burned out on this trying to argue or talk about the whole controversy because at this moment in time, like things are moving, but the problem is we're not sure how they're going to be moving properly. And
yeah, this story is fresh. This is all today. I guess it's worth mentioning that too. This is all happening today. So, and it's barely the next morning over there. So it's a brand new day for things to move around in that.
Yeah.
Which could be a nothing sandwich by the end of the day.
Well, it probably is a slow news day for whoever started this.
Yeah.
So, shall we move on to another topic? One that I'm saying there, like, I want to know why.
Okay. Yes.
Why do you have one? Why do you have one, Eddie?
A Stadia?
Yes.
Yes, I now possess a Stadia.
Why?
In fact, let me go grab it. I'm going to take a picture of it and send it.
So, yes, me and MPX just found out that Eddie has a Stadia. I think or has at least a Stadia controller.
You need the 4K Chromecast.
I know that it needs the 4K Chromecast if you're going to use it on a TV.
So, I guess that's a good way. You bring up a good point. Is Stadia only the controller, or does it have to be the combination of the 4K and the controller to say you have a Stadia? Because I could just have the controller.
It's neither. Stadia is technically a service, but if you want to have quotations the best approach to it, you want to get the Stadia controller.
That's an excellent.
Is what I've heard because you can use an Xbox 360 an Xbox controller on Stadia.
I guess in that case, then to further clarify, I have a Stadia controller.
Yeah,
that is in my possession.
So
with it came a Chromecast 4K. Which I have yet to feast my eyes on. Because I haven't set this up at all yet. I've only ever looked at the controller and I haven't dug any deeper.
Yeah.
But the question as to why, last month, I got an email saying that if you are a YouTube Premium subscriber, music subscriber, or both, I forget which, but I have both.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're a YouTube Premium subscriber, here you go. You get a free Stadia. Have fun.
Because we can't shove it anywhere else.
I mean, probably that's the case. I wouldn't put it past that. But that's how I got it. It's completely free. I didn't have to pay a dime for it. In fact, in 6 days, I'm going to cancel my somewhat obligatory Stadia subscription because I don't need that. Yeah. And now I will have a Stadia to use however little or much I want.
Maybe it'll be worthwhile, 5
years down the line.
I'm thinking I'm definitely going to this is going to be the system I leave back in Tucson at my folks' place. Although their internet isn't the fastest, so I wonder how effective it will be at all. But I have no use for it here. If not that, maybe I'll take it around on traveling, but then that also depends on the internet connection of where I go to. So, who knows what kind of mileage I'll actually get out of this. But I have one.
So, okay, so that answers the whole, why do you have one is the fact that it's it got sent to you for free because you have subscriptions with YouTube Premium.
Yep. I made a wise choice. I mean, I also think the YouTube. I only do it, one, because commercials are annoying, and two, it comes with YouTube Music, which is what I use it mostly for. And I love YouTube music because not only can you play whatever songs exist in your library, but you can play YouTube videos and just play them audio only and add them to your playlist, which is amazing. It basically means that any song I want, I can have on a playlist. I don't have to watch it; just listen to the audio version of it. So it's all super good. But yeah, I was rewarded for that preference in a Stadia, which again, my mileage may vary on how rewarding it actually is. But cool, I got a Stadia. Happy birthday to me.
It's a little tiny bit late on that one.
I mean, technically, I ordered it very near my birthday. I don't remember how near, though. It was near-ish. A little after, I think. So, it works. I'm just surprised I didn't bring it up until now. I don't know why I forgot to bring it up until just now.
Probably because it's like you actually finally got it.
Yeah. I think it came to me the week we were absent from episode, and I think I just hadn't, obviously I haven't hooked it up here because, again, I don't really have much of a place to hook it up here for, or a use for it. But okay, maybe I'll buy a game off it and toy with it just to see and report back on it. I'll see. And actually, it's funny. Yep. We just talked about Cyberpunk, Stadia, and we also talked about Stadia is struggling. Cyberpunk might be the one thing that helps Stadia out quite a bit because now Stadia is able to really fulfill that promise they had. Is that now you get, assuming you have the right internet connection, the highest quality version of this game with no patching. You literally buy the game and you start playing it once it's available, period. And that is one of the selling points of this game. Having a Stadia, is that you get to play all these games without having to worry about the maintenance. So
yeah, but there are other services that do the same thing. Like the NVIDIA Now thing or whatever it was.
That still involves you having set that up.
Well, yeah.
More so than Stadia, I would say.
Oh, there's also the fact that there's an integration with Steam side of it. I actually looked up how it works as a factor that if you have you can do a free account. Everything is time based. You don't even have to have an NVIDIA graphics card to use the service too. But it's all time based, and it's like if you do the free version, guess what? You're only going to be playing a game for 1 hour.
Ugh, yeah, RPG, you only get to play an hour at a time. That was great.
Yeah, so that's the biggest drawback is that if you want to get the most out of it, you're going to actually have to sign up for the service. But there is an integration where it does verify that you have made a purchase of the game through your own, through Steam. Is the fact like, oh, hey, I want to play Cyberpunk. Well, let's check your Steam account. Oh, you did purchase it. Let's download it and get it set up for you. As well as being able to purchase games that are only in NVIDIA Now as well. So, but it's still one of those things of it's an alternate, and there's still still leads into one of the major problems of streaming games, which is data cap.
Mm-hmm. It's almost a reason why I don't want to try it because I already struggle with my data caps as it is.
Yeah, and that's why it's as of right now, that is probably the biggest roadblock.
Actually, recently we have checked out and found out that we can get unlimited data. Of course, I don't know if it's technically unlimited data and actual unlimited data, because, sometimes I do say things like that.
They say unlimited data, and what they do is oh, hey, let's just
double it's 20 terabytes, but there is an actual cap on it.
Yeah.
And it's also, I don't know what plan you're talking about, but the internet plan that I have asks for $50 more to have that unlimited plan. It's
that's what we have, Eddie. We have.
Well, we don't have the unlimited plan, but we do have,
the same provider.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just haven't reached the point where I think that extra $50 is worth it because that's a good chunk of change.
Well, it's only really worth it if you're actually, abusing upload and download speeds and being essentially a stay-at-home business, which, let's face it, I think a lot of people are actually really considering these days.
Well, Asher knows exactly how much I abuse my data cap, so
kind of a lot, and this is why it's I want to use your Plex server a little bit more, but at the same time I feel bad using it because it's this is screwing around with his data cap.
Honestly, if that's what brought me over the edge, that would actually make me purchase unlimited data. That would make me feel like it would be worth it. Right now, it doesn't feel like it's worth it, or that I can still manage it. But yeah, if that happens, then I would gladly do it and be fine with it. But at this point, I'm motivated to attempt to manage it.
Yeah, no, and this is why it's I tend to not try and use your Plex server very often.
Use it, David. Use it.
I know I have access.
It's why I work on it. That's why I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Well, technically, your brother uses it more than I do.
Actually, I can find out. I have statistics for this now.
You have
Oh,
stats.
wonderful.
Let's see. Let me sign in. Come on. Who is my power user? Home. Most active users. Actually, and Andy is third. There's another person who uses it more. The funny thing is that the number of plays, of course, me at number 1 is 127 plays.
Okay.
Number 2 is 8 plays.
Andy is what, 5 plays?
3 at third place.
Good God.
So I'm
Is
saying.
this monthly or what? Lifetime?
This might actually be
No.
lifetime. I actually don't know.
I don't think it's lifetime.
Oh, last
I
30
honestly
days.
don't-
It is the last 30 days.
Okay.
Well, that can
I-
mean that it goes up and down, but then again, because we are entering the holiday season where a lot of people are staying at home and watching stuff, then again, that may be different because of viewing.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, feel free to abuse it, Dave. Okay, so we only have 3 minutes before the podcast is over. So maybe the stories we're gonna have to hold for a different day. We were gonna talk about scalpers again. Maybe not. Scalpers are scalpers.
Actually, let's go in if we can do it under 5 minutes.
Okay. The only thing I was gonna bring up about the scalpers is that I don't know if you've caught on to this story, but the scalpers, at least one particular group of scalpers, was like really trying to like, hey, even though we're charging like 50% on top of everything, we're doing it because it's for our families. They can have food on the table, and like it was an odd petition for sympathy, in my opinion.
It sounds like they're just sort of desperate to offload the stuff in the first month where it's still a hot commodity before it will naturally plummet down, once the second round of shipment comes out. Yeah. Because they don't have unlimited money.
For me, it's just they're trying to pretend to be altruistic when there's nothing altruistic about what they're.
Well, they're trying to garner sympathy, and maybe some of them ended up stupidly deciding that, hey, let's scalp this and try to make ends meet this month, and screw themselves over because they're not ruthless enough and such. And who knows? They could be lying. They could be telling the truth. It doesn't really matter.
Although it still sucks for us.
Yeah. Sucks for whoever's trying to get one. Anyway, so it's just a call for sympathy.
Yeah, it sounds like it's just like, hey, stop bashing on us. Just trying to make a living.
Off of others. Directly.
Off of others. Yeah.
Parasitically.
And just because I'm a fucking child, I'm just going to post an image just because I can't.
Sorry, I stepped away to plug in the PS4, getting ready for Ghosts.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've said. I guess we could have gone into it if we wanted to, but I don't think that scalpers are scalping. They have a story to go along with. There's people are still upset because they're being charged like $200 more for a console, and the scalpers are so good that they can have warehouses worth of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's the fact that they knew that this was happening. They had the software to essentially make sure all the digital purchases were essentially theirs, and the corporations don't really care enough to try to make sure things are fair.
Yeah, we got our money.
Yeah. Exactly. They're not. There's no incentive for them to change things because they're still getting paid.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if they did, which is what we're always hoping for from them, right? To be nice.
But then again, I have heard some good stories regarding the scalping, such as trick happened like in eBay that where a bunch of supposedly scalped consoles was rejected, or like the purchase option was like gone or something. I forget
I've heard
what.
A couple of those. I think one of these groups, after they bragged about the scalping, I guess some retailer realized that they had orders from a scalper and canceled all the orders. I don't know how they made that connection personally, but that's just... Okay. And then with that, I think we might be able to call this an episode. We did it, everybody. So the only thing new that I want to plug is that my brother and I have been he's playing Fallout. I'm just commentating on it, but it's a let's play of Fallout. So
good.
First Fallout.
Yep, we're pretty deep into Fallout 1. We're going to try to wrap it up next week. We're almost at the Master, but my brother's so underleveled that he can't get past all the super mutants to get to the Master.
So,
but we're there.
He
We're
doesn't
almost
need
there.
to go for a talking build.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're almost there, and then we'll move on to number 2. He's the one playing. I'm just commentating, so you can look for us online, and we can watch us. That comes out Monday. Well, it was every day, but we're going to switch to Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays now. FYI. Okay. That's something I'm going to plug. Other than all the other stuff that for Geeks does, which is podcasts on the weekends and Fridays.
Did you
and
say
Saturdays.
What channel to watch on?
Oh, for my brother's thing?
Yes.
I think it's just Lord E1323, but I forget actually.
Because it's sort of hard for people to follow up if you don't actually tell them where to go.
Oh, well, there can't be that many Fallout Let's Plays. I say
be surprised.
I say jokingly.
Yeah, you would.
Actually, there is a lot. But what is my brother's channel called? I just subscribed once and didn't look back. It is Lord E1323. I was correct. Good. I did know. You see, Andy, I did know. I pay attention sometimes.
As if he actually listens to this.
He might.
He better.
Anyway,
so
so we are signing off for now.
Yep.
Yarp.
Have a good
Hopefully
week, everybody.
by next week we'll be able to talk about Cyberpunk 2077 and whether it's a success or a dud.
Or in between.
It'll probably be a success or a great success. Let's be honest.
I think
Even if
it
it
ultimately
fails-
is going to be dependent upon exactly how good the game is. Admittedly, we're going back to the beginning of this episode, but
Full circle.
I think it's polished enough that even if it is a turd, people will still sort of be endeared by it.
Yeah. And CD Projekt Red are definitely going to get their money's worth, at least this time around.
Well, the same could have been said about No Man's Sky. Of course, No Man's Sky has clawed back from the disastrous launch and betrayal of the fans
From the abyss.
to some success.
Yeah.
Oh, that
So-
reminds me. The Game Awards are also going to happen this week, so we'll be able to talk about that next week too. There you go. Preview of next
Hosted
week.
by Brie Larson.
Oh, that's neat. I know she was presenting. I didn't realize she was hosting. That's cool.
I'm worried about that.
Why?
I'm
Because
more
I'd
worried.
rather have somebody in the game industry than, a movie star.
Yeah.
I mean, the Oscars are hosted by comedians.
Yeah, but a fair amount of them at least have been doing some acting and such.
Yeah.
And you could say that there's a bit more bleed over with comedians and actors. Then again, they've also been trying to push back on the comedians simply because of the fact that the comedians like to make jokes.
I also don't think you want an insider usually to host the award show you're doing. You kind of want that outside perspective for that kind of thing, I think.
No, I think sometimes the insider perspective demonstrates much more the fact that it is sort of being presented by somebody who's in the industry, who understands what these things are and what the meaning of it. It's not that they can't just simply extend the hand to, some retirees and, well-known people who have committed some major things. Like, I'm pretty sure the Game Awards have had Shigeru Miyamoto on it.
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't really done any major design work, as far as I know.
But I think you want a host that will go and highlight them, like not by
You
being
mean
an outsider.
they
go
want a
ahead and-
host to get people who aren't gamers to watch it?
I mean, not necessarily. Again, that's not the reason why they do it in the Oscars. It isn't like comedians are going, "Oh, a comedian's hosting the Oscars. Now I'll watch it." Like that's not the point of it. It's just someone who can present something with some panache.
Yeah, but they
panache.
want comedians so they can make the Oscars more interesting. Because, I mean, you have seen the ratings for the Oscars, right?
Yeah.
So, then again, the other thing the Game Awards does have for it is the previews and other such things. So, It's not wholly without just an award show.
I think as far as hosting goes, it's going to revolve on their ability to literally present what's going on and how well they can do that. And that's really what it's going to come down to. And then the production of the rest of the show. Again, like how you're saying, the trailers and I don't know what guest appearances by other folks, which I'm sure there will be, right? They usually have guest appearances by other actual names in the industry. As long as they have a good mix of that, they should have success.
Yeah, but then
Should.
again, this is coming off of the COVID stuff. So I'm guessing they're going to be very limited to who's available.
Truthfully, I don't think I've ever watched the Game
know if
Awards,
there's going to be a
so-
live audience.
I don't know if I've ever even watched the Game Awards. I just like reading about it. I don't know if I've ever actually sat and watched it. So And-
I've seen clips of it. I've never actively sat down and watched it live, per se.
maybe I will this time since we've talked about it so much. Maybe I should actually make it a point to watch it. But also, I'll be playing
Nah.
Cyberpunk. So, I feel like I'm gonna be really distracted. But we'll see. Okay, we've done enough overtime. We'll talk about this next
Yes.
week. Bye, everybody.
Later.
This has been a presentation of Front Row Geeks. Adios.